Do you think building a fence is really going to help with the problems of illegal immigration? What do you see to be the real problems caused by illegal immigration, and what solutions do you propose?
Well, I've only been working 28 years on this issue, so let me try and talk as fast as I can on this. Yes, the fence does assist, and the reason why I say it does assist, we saw it utilized in San Diego, where we had a 13-mile section where we built the two-tiered fence. It brought down the number of illegal aliens coming across the border in that sector substantially. I think brought it down by something on the order of 75%. Brought down the incidence of violent crime in that area by a huge amount. Because what it does is it stops people from going into major metropolitan areas where once they immediately get across the border, they can get into the community. It's very difficult to find them. So it's part of an overall piece. We need to do a lot more. We need true border enforcement. I mean, I was the author of the language that was contained in the legislation that said, we've got to stop catch and release. Now, what's that program? That was a program where when we found people coming across the border who weren't Mexicans, we have two categories of people coming across the southern border. They're called Mexicans or OTMs, other than Mexicans from all other countries. When we found them coming across, we needed to detain them because you can't just put them across the border because they're not Mexicans. You have to detain them. You have to identify what country they're from. You have to get cooperation from their country to identify and certify they're from. Then you set up transportation. It costs money. You have to have facilities. We didn't have those, so we had catch and release. We give them a piece of paper saying you violated the law, show up in court in 90 days. Guess what? 94% of them never showed up. So we changed that law. We need to have employer sanctions. We need to have a tamper-proof Social Security card. We need to have, eventually, it seems to me, a system of temporary workers so they can come here based on what we believe are the numbers that are necessary, so we decide that. And then we have to do something about the large number of people who have put down roots in the community, been here for a long period of time. We're not going to be able to send them all home. And at the same time, I think a pathway to citizenship for those individuals will never pass on the floor, nor should it. We have to have a compromise somewhere in between.
I agree with my opponent. The illegal immigration is a complex and long-standing problem. If you're a Native American, you'd say the problem began in 1492. I've heard my opponent say at town hall meetings he gave credit to Ronald Reagan for leading to the end of the Cold War and bringing down the Soviet Union by saying, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I would say, Mr. Lungren, tear down that fence. I was an exchange student in Germany when I was 17 years old, and I saw the Berlin Wall, one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. Building walls between countries, around cities, is a medieval concept. We need to advance beyond medieval thinking, and we need to look at the root causes of what is driving illegal immigration. Again, my opponent refers to undocumented immigrants as illegal aliens. As a physician who's been treating them for years, I refer to them as fellow human beings. If I were in their position in South and Central America and Mexico, I would probably do the same thing. If my family were starving, I would find some way to prevent them from starving. We need to address the root causes, including the tremendous socioeconomic injustice, and not that we're totally responsible for it, but we have some degree of responsibility with the exploitation of workers across the border through CAFTA and NAFTA and farm supplements, that type of thing. I do not believe a fence will work. It's a complex problem. It requires a complex solution. I'll say, go to my website and read my speech on immigration if you want my whole story on that. Thank you.
Well, I think even my grandchildren can tell the difference between a fence that's built to keep you in and a fence that's built to keep you out. To compare a fence to stop people from coming into the United States to the Berlin Wall, which was to keep people in, is just a mixed up metaphor, to say the least. You know, I refer to people who are here illegally as illegal aliens because that's the words in the law of immigration. I recognize them as human beings, But just because someone is a human being doesn't mean they have the right to trespass or to come into my house and say, you've invited me in, now you've asked me to leave, I'm going to refuse to leave. It doesn't make me less of a human being or them less of a human being to say to them, you came in as a guest, we ask you to leave, you have no right to be here, you have no right to take over my house. So let's not try and suggest that people who believe that controlling your border is a way to control the destiny of your country are wrong. Every other country in the world recognizes the right to control their borders.
The right to control one's border. But again, the question is how to be effective in doing that. Building a fence is not an effective way of doing that. We have to, as I said before, address the root causes of what is driving the immigration on both sides. That includes the tremendous poverty on the other side. That includes employers on our side who are actively seeking these people to come across. The bill passed in Congress that my opponent voted for is, I would use the medical term, schizophrenic. It would make felons of 10 to 12 million people who are living, for the most part, peaceful, productive lives, and it would also make felons of anybody who gives any aid to them. And that, to me, is just outrageous from the point of view of someone who is in the business of caring for other human beings.